Okay, this video will show you how to create a Problem Addict quiz. So when you log into Problem Addict, first you'll select your the type of questions that you want. So from New York State Regents exams, if I'm a math teacher, I would click on mathematics. You'll notice that you would choose the type of math questions that you are looking for. You can either choose from here, and it will give you a list of topics, and then under each topic, the questions are all grouped and categorized. You can also go to exams and pull the entire exam or questions from a specific exam. And then it also has the Spanish version of some of these Regents exam questions as well, and just in the offshot that you might want that. So if under topics, I'm going to say I'm Algebra 2 and we're doing symbolic logic, and we'll do true-false statements. So these are all the questions that fit into this category. So since I'm under create up here, I'm in the process now of creating an exam. And any question that I want to add to my test, I would just go ahead and click add. The other thing you can do is you can edit questions for your test. So if I like the problem, but I want to make a few changes to it, you can go in here and actually re-edit this and save the question, and it will save it as a separate question. But you can have, obviously make it your own individual question as well. So that is an option. What else is here? This little star kind of lets you star questions as your favorites, and you have different colors that you can use for this. The I just gives you more information about the question, the problem comes from, tells you where it's located, and also which Regents exam it came from. And then finally, if you see a problem that seems to have a mistake in it, you can flag this problem and give your feedback, and the people at Problem Addict will review the question and remove it if they feel, or correct it if they feel that there's an issue with it. So now I'm just going to make sure that I just add a few more questions to my quiz. Okay, so now that I've selected questions, and you can go back into other databases and keep adding different questions. So I'll add this one so we can kind of see what a table looks like. We'll do a couple tables. And again, if you want to edit these tables or edit the question, just go ahead and hit edit. So now when I go to arrange, these are all, I can arrange my test and set up my test here. So first of all, it automatically put all of these questions into a part 1 of the test. Now I can scramble the questions and kind of have them show up randomly, or I can drag and drop them into the order that they want them to appear on the test. The other thing I can do is I can add a new part to my test. I'll say at the end of the document, or we'll say at the end. So now I have a part 2, and I can go back and I can add questions now for my part 2. And I'm going to go back to arrange. And now you'll see that in part 2, I've got these 2 questions. So part 1 is you can just click on what you want to see, and you can have multiple parts to your test. You can also remove an entire part. And then what you can do is if you go into format, you can go ahead and you can choose, how do you want your test to look? So, you can add, headers are not an option, but you can change the fonts on your questions. You can kind of decide how do you want the multiple choice questions to show up. A lot of teachers don't make changes here, but you certainly can do that. And you can go between each question here and then change how you want the layout to be for that particular question. You can go ahead and make a PDF of your exam, but you don't necessarily need to do that. This would be what you would do if you were going to print your test. But if you actually want to go back and you want to export it so you can import this into Schoology, you're going to do that from the Export tab. Before we hit Export, I do want to just point out under Score, this is, you can actually share the link to this test and have your kids take it within Problem Addict, and it does do recording of the grades and everything in Problem Addict. Most We don't usually recommend this. We find that it's just one more program for you to have to learn. It's easier if you just add these into Schoology and do your scoring from there. But under the student tab here, you will see an answer key for the quiz that you submitted. So this is kind of important because you're going to want this answer key, probably just for your own benefit. So let's go back to export. So now what I'm going to do is I want to export this to Schoology. So you can ignore everything up here. This is really just kind of getting share settings if you were going to assign this via Problematic, which most of you are not. So you would come down here and say, oh, you want to export it as a quiz for an LMS, and you would choose whether you want it to be a Schoology test quiz or a Schoology assessment. I'll just stick with a test quiz for now, and I'm going to say download. And we will call this the social studies test. Okay, now I'm going to go into Schoology and show you how to add this test into Schoology. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click from add materials. I'm going to say add a test quiz because that's what I downloaded it as. And call this a social studies test. We'll make it be due on Friday. And it is an actual test. Create. So now I need to add my questions, and this is where we do the import. So I'll click add question, and I'm going to say import test quiz. And I'm going to choose Blackboard, hit next, and then you have to click on this little icon to select your file. And here's the social studies test. So I'm going to select it or double click it, and then just hit import. And it adds all the questions for you. And they look pretty good. If you wanted to preview this, you can kind of see how each question looks. Looks pretty good. So that does a really nice job with the formatting, and this will now grade within Schoology. Just a little side note, if you have students that go to the test center and need a test read, we have instructed them to use what we call the read write toolbar. And the test center attendants, they've been trained on this, and all the students who have IEPs and 504s have also been trained. But when they open the read write toolbar, if you just hit play, it doesn't know how to read these questions because they kind of import as an image file. So the student needs to use the screenshot reader. And what you do is you just take the screenshot reader and you draw a box around what you want it to read. And you just kind of have to give it a second because it's scanning it, and then it'll load it and it'll start reading it for you. So the students can draw a box around any question. They can draw a box around a larger portion of the screen, and it will just read the questions pretty well for them as well.